Genesis 1, the divine blueprint, or just another creation myth. As we turn the pages to Genesis 1, we're supposedly witnessing the most profound, elegant description of the cosmos's creation. In reality, we find a vague, anthropocentric tale that betrays a mind boggling lack of perspective. We're led to believe that an omnipotent deity meticulously crafted this universe in 6 days, a deity apparently in urgent need of a work week and a rest day. An eternal, omniscient, omnipresent being with a scheduling conflict. Let there be inconsistency. On day one, we have an earth that is formless and void, suspended in darkness, and then, in the grand voice of, "Let there be light," light itself springs forth. There's just one small problem. There's no sun yet. God, it seems, has invented light without a source. Day and night exist without a spinning earth and a blazing sun. One could almost think the author of Genesis wasn't exactly on speaking terms with astrophysics. And as any modern school child could tell you, a day has no meaning without a rotating planet in relation to a light source. So from the first few lines, we're already operating in a world that appears magically disconnected from reality. The days roll on. A manual for the universe? Then God proceeds to create, day by day, land and seas, each in a methodical sequence, as if he's following an ancient recipe. But who exactly is this universe being designed for? A few basic observations on scale. This universe is said to be 13.8 billion years old and is filled with some 200 billion galaxies. Yet Genesis 1 tells us that this colossal cosmic backdrop is all just window dressing for the real prize, a small, bipedal mammal on a speck of dust called Earth. Apparently, an omnipotent creator with limitless resources decided to spend his energy fashioning an infinite cosmos to stage humanity's struggle with itself on a planet with about as much spatial significance as a speck on a beach. The grandest ambition, a world for man. Let's talk about anthropocentrism. Genesis 1 tells us that humans are not merely the last, most complex link in the evolutionary chain, but the absolute center of creation. Dominion is granted over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every living thing. How convenient that this divine mandate aligns so perfectly with humankind's natural inclination to view itself as master and everything else as subject. This is not a recipe for harmony or stewardship. It's a justification for exploitation, a divine license to subjugate. It's no surprise that we have spent centuries bulldozing nature under the convenient pretense of dominion. After all, if God gave us the earth, why not use it as we please? The creation of the sun and moon, on day 4, one cannot miss the delicious irony of Genesis 1's fourth day. Only now, after 3 days of morning and evening, does God deign to create the sun and the moon. So what exactly have we been measuring days by? Were we just pretending to keep time by some unknown light source? And what are we to make of the moon as a light? Science has known for centuries that the moon doesn't produce light, it reflects it. Yet here, Genesis presents it as an equal to the sun, as though the author couldn't be bothered to look up and wonder why nightlight doesn't burn quite as bright as day. Dominion and ecological apathy. If Genesis 1 had merely ended with humans inhabiting Earth, we might have had a harmless, if quaint, story. But Genesis goes further, granting humankind dominion over all creatures. This is the ancient world's rallying cry for human exceptionalism, the belief that everything exists for us, a worldview that has justified centuries of environmental neglect and exploitation. Why bother preserving forests if they were given to us? Why preserve species if they exist to serve human need? This divine mandate has given humanity carte blanche to do as it pleases with a world it barely understands, and we're now reaping the consequences. Science and the six-day universe. Let's not pretend this was ever meant as allegory. For centuries, people took Genesis 1 literally. Only with the advent of scientific inquiry did we find ourselves backpedaling, insisting it was all metaphor, that the 6 days were epochs, or that the story was a poetic expression. But even a cursory comparison to scientific fact tells us this creation myth has little resemblance to the actual universe, which unfolded over billions of years through processes of astounding complexity. Evolution alone turns Genesis 1 on its head. Life didn't emerge in neat stages according to a divine timetable. It erupted in wild profusion, through gradual change, chaos and adaptation, driven not by design, but by the relentless march of natural selection. Why all this trouble? One might ask why an omnipotent being would need to break down the creation into separate days. For whom is this sequence intended? Why does God, of all beings, need a process? Genesis offers no insight. The story presents creation as an exercise in segmented labor, as if the Creator, powerful enough to speak a universe into existence, needed to pace himself. In fact, the notion that God rests on the seventh day adds insult to injury, implying that even the Almighty is subject to exhaustion. What kind of omnipotence requires a day off? The very idea undercuts the concept of an all-powerful being, reducing God to a craftsman who's clocked out after a hard week, an early form of cosmic narcissism. And finally, there's the question of motive. Why create this particular universe? Why bother with a very good Earth at all? There's a kind of cosmic narcissism at play here, where the Creator designs a universe purely to reflect back at himself his own goodness. That this goodness is rather difficult to reconcile with the world as we know it, a world of natural disasters, disease, and death. Are we to believe that such horrors are part of this very good design, or are they mere oversights? Genesis 1 would have us accept a God whose only aim is to craft a universe for his own amusement, and who then leaves us to contend with a creation that is indifferent and often hostile to human life. In conclusion, Genesis 1 is neither a blueprint for reality nor a sophisticated allegory. It is a creation myth, no more prescient than those of any other ancient culture. It grants humankind a self-serving, exploitative worldview, a warped understanding of nature, and a deeply flawed model of cosmic origins. This story's staying power reflects not its accuracy, but its willingness to pander to our basest instincts, dominion, and entitlement. And that is the real tragedy, that so many have taken comfort in a tale that absolves them of the responsibility to truly understand, care for, and marvel at the astonishing complexity of the world as it actually is.